Hi everyone, it's Adam with Miles Restoration, and today I've got a video about refinishing this Vanity. Planning on painting it. It does have some peeling paint though. As you can see, I'll take my fingernail here and just kind of show you that, I can easily scratch it. So what I did was I started by sanding off all of the failing paint on the flat surfaces with my Mirka. My Merca is very aggressive, and it was easily able to take off what you can see is that kind of like beigeish top coat. And then for the areas that were curved on the front, I used a method that I probably wouldn't recommend, but I did it and I had a little bit of success with it. I put some paint stripper on for a very short amount of time. Then I quickly used some acetone to rub it off. And what I found is that it took off that top layer of paint, and then I was able to set it out to dry and let the bottom layer harden up. And basically, it dried up just like it was regular paint, and I couldn't remove it or couldn't scratch the bottom layer of paint after that. I don't really like that method though. I probably won't ever use that again. So again, really the big thing whenever I find peeling paint is I'm just looking to get down to a solid layer of material, and that's what I'll use to start priming over. I just don't like to prime over peeling paint. I'm sure that it can be done in certain situations, but it's just not a good kind of mental thing for me more than anything. So just a little quick tutorial on my masking here. With drawer boxes, it's pretty straightforward. I just take a piece of pre-taped plastic, cut it. I don't really worry about the bottom. I just wrap it up, tape it, and it's good. And mirrors and frameless drawers and stuff like that can be a little bit more tricky. So usually what I do in those situations, particularly with mirrors, is that I'll take the tape and I'll kind of form like an outline of the mirror, and then I'll just tape my plastic to that tape. That way, I have an inch or two of play. I don't have to cut my plastic exact, and it's just a little bit easier for me. This is just shellac based primer here that I'm spraying. Really, you know, nothing special, and it's just BIN. I'm probably using like a 1.3 to spray it with. I'm probably putting it on a little bit too heavy too, but I knew that I was going to be giving this a very long time to dry, so I applied it way more thickly than I should have. Just a random side note here. Um, I'm not sure how many of my viewers are kind of interested in this kind of thing, but for me, knowing how thick you're spraying a coating is pretty important. And I've never actually tested it before. I kind of just guessed that typically I was probably somewhere between 3 to 5 wet mils um, when spraying. And I used something to gauge it the other day and test and see what I was spraying it at. And it actually came out at about 4.5 mils for an average coat of, I think it was emerald urethane. And that's what I've got right here that I'm about to spray the top coat. So, just a general kind of rule of thumb. I'm probably somewhere trying to be at about 3 to 5 mils per coat. And that's just a, you know, general rule of thumb. It could be different if you're using an airless or an air assisted or like a Wagner type sprayer. It's all going to be different. But I think that anywhere between 3 to 5 generally for most coatings is probably going to be a safe zone where you know that it's going to dry in a reasonable amount of time, but at the same time, you're going to get a thick enough coating to, you know, for you to work with. I sanded between every coat of primer and um, paint. I did a total of 2 coats of paint on everything. The case, like this main part right here, it got 3 coats, but I didn't get that on camera. I did have some little sections of peeling paint that I thought that I had gotten off, but I had to deal with later. And also, that little press board area that I'm sanding right now, it had a little bit of kind of like lumps and stuff like that in it that just came from a little bit of, I guess, moisture that was kind of trapped inside of it. There's really nothing I can do about that. I mean, I can try to sand them out, but it's just not really worth it. If anything, I'm better off just buying a new backer for the inside of that little drawer area where the mirror is. Okay, so I also have a 4 needle set in here, and I have a 4 on the fluid setting and the air pressure all the way up. It's a little bit oversprayish, not a big deal to me. I don't really mind it because of the fact that I'm in the booth and I have a bunch of extractors in here. But if you were spraying in a garage or, like me, recently I was spraying in my garage and I probably would have turned it down a little bit just to try to cut back some of the overspray and just try to give it a chance to settle out some. You'll get a little bit of orange peel off the gun, especially with these, like emerald urethane. It's a pretty thick coating, but that's not a big deal. It doesn't need to look perfect off the gun. As long as you have some, like, shaded area or somewhere where you can let this kind of set up some, it'll level out, given that you sprayed a sufficient amount of paint on there. And, with these settings, I'll say that probably what I do, generally speaking, is make 2 passes over an area. And that's not for any particular reason more than that. I'd say I just tend to move the gun faster than most people that I know. And nothing really about that out of a technique or anything. It's just something that I do. So I'm just putting everything back together now. I was pretty happy with the way this turned out, especially be it that it had all those peeling paint problems in the beginning, and I kind of figured I wasn't even going to be able to save this. I only paid about $30 for it, and there was no really like a beautiful piece of furniture hiding underneath here in the sense that if I stripped it down, this was a piece that was originally painted, and the original paint was solid, but just kind of to recap, I just went down to a solid layer of paint and then I stopped there. If you feel it necessary to strip all of the paint off, then that's, you know, your decision. But in my case, I think it was fine, and I like the way it turned out. So, please let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're interested in furniture flipping, furniture restoration, or anything painting, please subscribe.